Cool, cool, cool. Hey, we're back with episode two.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So, episode one hasn't been made public by this point, but I did schedule it to release on May 6th at noon. So that's there in case anyone
Ooh,
wants to
so
know.
2 days from the recording of this.
Yeah,
Bum
yeah.
bum bum.
All right, so this is GC Squared. This is the show where two very, very good friends just talk a lot about comic books and video games, and maybe some other stuff might seep in there too. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah.
As always, I am here with Garrett, and when Garrett isn't busy hijacking airplanes, he is a writer specializing in video game content for various contracted websites.
Yeah, as of right now, I've been doing contracted work for The Gamer, writing game guides, so that's been cool. And then I've also just been working with other clients and non-video game related content, which that varies from week to week. And yeah, my good friend Taylor here, he is working as a social media person for a company that I forgot the name of, and he mostly makes videos for them.
Oh, this social media marketer must be really good if people can't remember the name of the page he's working for.
Isn't
That's
that
okay.
car place?
Yeah, it's a car place, but I forget the name of it too.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking though that like this was just a thought that came to me recently. Is maybe we could kick off episodes by just talking a little bit about like any experiences I've had with video games, any experiences you've had with comic books during the time that we recorded, and then we can hop into the topic afterward.
See, that's hilarious because I was literally thinking the same thing. I was thinking that
Really?
I was going to very quickly ask you what you've been playing recently and hope that you pick up on the social cue to ask me what I've been reading recently.
Wow. What are the odds of that?
What have you been playing recently?
Yeah, so what I've been playing recently is I've been playing Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed, which is the fourth wave DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And that's been a lot of fun. It's been really cool seeing all the different stuff. What I really like about it is it feels like they took the best aspects of the three mainline games and kind of meshed them together in this DLC. I'm very impressed by it so far. Haven't been it yet, but I'm a decent way into it. I'm in chapter 3 right now.
How long is the DLC?
Um, Various sources online say that if you try to speed through it as fast as possible, it takes about 10 hours, but if you're trying to do all the side content, it can easily take up to 30.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was $30 for the entire season pass, so I'd say that's a solid deal, like for just the last wave, not even including the previous three.
You know what's hilarious is I remember when 30 hours was considered like a really good length for a full game.
Well, I feel like it's a weird situation now where like some people have these expectations to play games for really long, but my thing is as long as the game's really good and I feel like it's worth the money, then I don't mind if like, it doesn't match perfectly with the value. For example, a couple of years ago, Little Nightmares 2 came out and that was a $40 game. It only took like my brother and I about 5 to 8 hours to beat, but I still considered it worth it because it was just an awesome experience.
Well, very nice.
Yeah, and besides Xenoblade, I've also played a little bit of Omega Strikers recently, which that's a free-to-play game that incorporates MOBA elements with soccer, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if I'll get super into it, but I've been having fun with it.
Good deal. Good deal.
And then I've been getting my, weekly addiction craving of League of Legends and been playing a bit of that, of course.
All right.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I've been playing this week is Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster, which, as the name implies, it's a remaster of Final Fantasy III, except based on the original release for the game. It's been fun revisiting that because I've never had the opportunity to play the original. My only experience with Final Fantasy III was the DS release. So it's been really cool to see a version that's more true to the original.
I think the furthest back I've ever seen a Final Fantasy is 4.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing a bit of Final Fantasy 4, but not much prior to that. I do remember that let's see. What two of the side characters, and I guess this is like a tradition, at least in the English translation. Two of the characters are named after Star Wars background characters. We've got Biggs, and he's usually paired with
Edge.
Yeah, Wedge. Wedge and Biggs. So there you go.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy series loves to bust out Biggs and Wedge as characters that just appear. I don't know which game that started with though. Maybe I could find out real quick. It might have been 4 that started it, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Oh yeah, another thing is that in some versions he's not called Biggs but Vix.
Well, that kind of ruins it.
Fair enough. Oh, okay. So yeah, 4 was the one where they started doing that. That's right. And then they also made Wedge appear as automatic name choices if you choose the thief job in the Dawn of Souls, which is the 20th anniversary remake of Final Fantasy 1. Thank you, Final Fantasy Fandom Wiki, for giving me that information.
All right.
What about you? What's been going on in the world of comic books, or either like what comics have you experienced this past time since we talked?
Okay, so as far as the timeline of things go, I just got back from Las Vegas Comic Con.
Nice, nice. Ooh, you must have some cool stuff from there that you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were telling me about Indiana Jones comics, right?
Yes, I was. I haven't been able to read them yet, though, and it's driving me nuts. Ah. So, like
I can imagine.
For years, I've been searching for the further adventures of Indiana Jones, or the adventures of Indiana Jones, or it's called different things occasionally. But It is a series of books that was made to tie in with Raiders of the Lost Ark specifically. Mm-hmm. The other movies had not been made or released, at least, while these books were being published. And so it's like, I really like that in a movie tie-in comic. You see it in a bunch of older movie tie-ins where like deleted concepts and alternate ideas are explored because there's just the source material itself hasn't expanded. It's like when you're waiting for the anime to catch up to the manga, or vice versa, you know. So it's like in this particular rendition, I haven't been able to read it because I'm still missing issue 1, and I want to like start from the beginning, you know.
Yeah, it'd be kind of awkward to start in the middle, huh?
Yeah, I have issue 2, but there's still a couple of holes in that collection I need to pick up. But long story short, it's been like 7 years since I've been able to see these out in the wild and find most of them in a dollar bin. I'm only missing like 6 out of the 34 issues.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that was a huge find for me personally. I'm very excited to eventually dig into them. And now that I have most of them, I'm okay paying the more expensive prices you find online.
Yeah, because now you're just filling in the collection instead of trying to like pay big chunks for each of the 30 or so comics.
Well, I found it in an omnibus that was released in 2008.
Okay.
And it was 2 volumes in this omnibus. To get both of them would have cost me roundabouts $400.
Dang.
So I kind of accepted fate that I was never going to get to read these until like recently. So I'm very excited for that. And just watch, now with the new movie being released, they're going to republish all of these in a handy collected edition for $40, and it's going to be like, nice.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, like, you know, of how you had that one experience, like as you mentioned in your YouTube video about the Uncharted comic book, that like, sometimes you just feel like you'll never get the chance, or it'll be a long time till you have the chance to read certain comic books, but then things just work out in a way where it happens sooner than you expect.
Yeah, I've always been very lucky. The story with that particular comic, for people who probably don't know, is I saw this book. I really wanted to get this book, but it was insanely expensive to collect as both individual issues and as the collected edition. So I kind of accepted defeat on that, but I love Uncharted, so it was a real shame that I couldn't grab this. But then very, very, very good friend of mine found it at a video game store for like $10. I don't know if the game store just didn't know what they had, or if they had some kind of policy for like collected editions, because it was the trade paperback. I don't know if they had some kind of general rule that you had to mark down the price or something, but snatched that one up real quick.
That's awesome.
Other than that, I found a lot more stuff at Comic-Con. Grabbed a couple of Superman books that had been missing from my collection. And I found the comic book adaptation of the Spider-Man movie, the first one.
Oh, like the Sam Raimi ones?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's very, very cool. It compresses the movie quite a bit. But the art in it is fantastic. The bits of the movie that they like were able to expand on were well expanded. It's really well laid out. I see a lot of other movie comics that kind of just, try to recreate images from the movie, but this particular one said, you know what, we're a comic book. We can arrange things like we're a comic book. We don't have to be the movie. We don't have to be storyboards for the movie. We can be
true,
our own thing. So those are the big highlights from Comic-Con. And then, of course, Free Comic Book Day is coming up on the 6th. So I expect to be picking up some more stuff from there, and I will report back.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely need to talk more about the free comic books you get and just like your experiences and whatnot next time. I did a quick Google search out of curiosity, and the paperback rendition of the Uncharted comics still go for like $90 to over $100 depending on where you buy them. And if you want to get all 6 of the issues, you're looking to spend at least $400.
Yeah, that's a lot, especially for a niche book.
Oh yeah,
but that might be part of the reason why it's so expensive, because like it's a very limited quantity. It's a very limited audience that would even care. It's like, I have it, super cool. The next person who wants it is either not going to care very much or really wants it and is willing to cough up quite a bit for it.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been reprinted. I don't expect it will ever be reprinted. So very, very fortunate I have it in my collection. I'm not interested in getting rid of it. I'm going to keep that.
Okay. Yeah, probably should keep that for sure.
So do we want to just hop in then?
Yeah, sure. So we decided that for the next 2 episodes of this podcast, something that might be kind of fun to do is I would take more of a lead role in this one and talk about a video game series that I've played since I was a kid and still play up to this day. And that next time we would talk about a comic series that Taylor's been reading for years since he was young until up to today as well. One that just catches his attention. And just for whatever reason, it just maintains your attention type deal.
Yeah. And so today we're talking about the battle mode in Mario Kart, right?
Yeah, more or less. If you were to take that and make it more edgy into Twisted Metal.
There's got to be a sound effect I can put there. I'll put a sound effect there. It'll be good.
Sounds good. Yeah, so ever since I was a little kid, like I want to say when I was like 4 or 5 years old, my family owned a PlayStation. I remember specifically on the PlayStation 1 at the time, we only owned like 3 or 4 games on it. One of them was an arcade classic collection of like games like Bubble and Joust and stuff.
Oh, so
Another
you had
one,
a billion games.
well, there were like 6 because it was a PS1.
Oh, that doesn't feel like very many.
Mm-mm. But I used to have fun with it. There was like one specific game I can't remember the name of where you played as like a robot and you had to like shoot other enemies and save the people there. It was really cool. I
Huh.
don't remember what it's called, unfortunately. I'm sure if I dug into it, I could find out. But yeah.
Okay.
I also had a game called Assault Rigs where you chose between 3 different vehicles and you would just play through the game, taking out enemies in your tank while also collecting keys and other points and making it out of each of the levels. It was a pretty interesting one for sure. I played Soul Blade, which was a fighting game that originated Soul Calibur series, and I believe it was called Soul Edge in some regions. But yeah, I knew it as Soul Blade. Had a lot of fun with that game. And then my family owned Twisted Metal 2. So my first experience with the series was actually the sequel. Interestingly enough.
Yeah. Well, from my limited research that I did, seems like Twisted Metal 2 was, you know, a fairly good follow up to the first one, if not better than the first one.
Yeah, it's commonly considered to be much better than the first one because the first one was an interesting situation where it was a release title for the PlayStation 1, if I remember correctly. So they were really rushing to get it out and making sure it released on time. And it actually sold extremely well. So they made a sequel using the same game engine and expanded on it, looked to improve it in various ways. And I feel like they managed to do that. So you mentioned you did a bit of research. So how about you let us know kind of what you know about Twisted Metal and I can help fill in the gaps.
Okay. So, um, it's not a racing game. It's a car combat game where like the cars themselves have weapons and you fight each other to the death. It's kind of like I mean, I said Mario Kart Battle, but it's like maybe almost a little bit. I don't know. Um that and then as far as story goes, I watched the completionist video on Twisted Metal Black,
Mm,
which was the darker reboot of the games. And then I watched this other thing where somebody went through and tried to put all the games in a timeline, but ultimately ended up summarizing all the games fairly decently.
okay. So you have a bit of an idea then of what's up and know some things about some of the games.
Some things, but also uh, you showed me Small Brawl, the
Yeah,
remote controlled car variant of Twisted Metal.
yeah, so that's a fun story because what happened was Taylor and I, like, I was visiting him at his town at the time, and we decided to go hit up the local retro game store he had there. And Small Brawl was one of the few games I didn't have in the Twisted Metal collection, and I've been looking for it, and they happened to have it there.
Yeah, and my PlayStation scratched it up to high noon.
Yeah, your PlayStation Slim, your PS2 Slim had the one copper coil, I think it was, that was popping up and it totally scratched a circle around the disc. But it's all good. The game still works. I got it resurfaced, so it looks fine and it still
Yeah,
works. So, yeah, I can still play it to this game. So no harm, no foul.
right. Right.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I actually did have a lot of fun with it. Someone might get mad at me. It kind of reminded me of the Cars 2 video game in a way.
Huh. I've never played that one, so I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, Cars 2 is Mario Kart, but with the Cars characters.
Mhm.
And since the movie itself was spy based, the game itself
Okay.
also had a lot of spy espionage stuff, and the items and weapons you got in the game were like tactical missiles and machine guns.
Hmm.
and that kind of thing. And it had a battle mode on it, and every tournament you had a battle mode, and it kind of played like Twisted Metal in a way.
Huh. Interesting.
Um, Fun game,
Yeah,
very
I've
very
heard
silly.
that. I've heard that like all the Cars games are way better than they have any right to be.
At least 2 and 3 were.
Yeah, I've heard decent things about one, and I played a bit of it at a friend's house on a GameCube once.
Ah, well,
Yeah.
I've clocked quite a few hours in Cars 2, and my family, we played a lot of it. We had a lot of fun with
Hmm.
that one. But that was kind of what Small Brawl reminded me of, and I liked I liked the idea of playing as like little RC cars, and I loved the environments because they were just normal environments, but they were huge because you were an RC car. Um, Kind of the same vibe that like Toy Story Racer gave in its environments,
Mm,
because
yeah.
like you're small, everything else is like your normal life but huge, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like how the very first level is that playground level, and then later on you're playing in a kitchen, and then the very last level's in the movie theater.
Yeah, yeah, that was fun. I liked Small Brawl. The video I watched though, like a couple of them, yeah, the
Mm.
completionist said that he hated Small Brawl, and the timeline video guy seemed very neutral and or kind of dismissive of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation where a lot of the fan base dislikes Small Brawl a lot. But personally for me, I really enjoy Small Brawl, and I definitely wouldn't consider it one of the worst in the series. For me personally, I consider Twisted Metal 3 the worst. Oh, we can get back to that one later. Like I still enjoy Twisted Metal 3 to clarify, but it's definitely one of the weakest in the series. And I don't know, I really enjoyed Small Brawl from what I played of it. It plays very similarly to Twisted Metal 2, but it's not as fast. So I wonder if that's kind of what throws people off with it. Also, Small Brawl had kind of a interesting release window.
Oh yeah.
So I think part of the reason why it got so much negativity is Twisted Metal Small Brawl came out after Twisted Metal Black.
Yes, okay, but why?
No idea. The only conclusion I can come to, because I don't know for certain, is maybe they were working on Small Brawl at the same time as Black. So it's like kind of this awkward situation of, well, why didn't they just release Small Brawl on a PS2, with better graphics and stuff?
Well, I imagine if you were building a game for the PS1, you'd have to
Mhm.
start from the bottom up if you wanted to turn it into a PS2 game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Also, like that brings up an interesting point because with Twisted Metal Black being so much darker than the other games, and then you have Small Brawl, which is, from what I gather, significantly lighter than the rest of them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like uh, the nature of the game seems to me that like it's going for a more what not not hardcore, but maybe a more, how would I describe the humor there? I don't
What,
know.
in Small Brawl or Black?
And Twisted Metal in general, like it seems like
Uh,
the PS1 games were going for a more insane, dark, zany kind of humor, whereas, and then Black took that further into darker territories, and then Small Brawl was a little bit more lighthearted. So it's like the kind of person I imagine was into Twisted Metal would probably much prefer the direction Black was taking it.
yeah, exactly. Because, yeah, I think the best way to probably describe it is the first couple Twisted Metal games. It's like edgy humor a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And like it still has its dark themes and everything, but it's definitely still kind of lighthearted and fun. I think Twisted Metal 2 is a really good representation of that. Like in Twisted Metal 2, it was kind of interesting because, well, to catch up to speed, I guess, the whole concept of Twisted Metal is that the tournaments ran by this guy named Calypso.
Yeah.
And depending on the version of the game, he has powers for different reasons. So, like in the first two, it's because he was given powers by demons. In three and 4. 3 doesn't really specify where he got his powers from, but 4 says he has it from this magic ring. Small Brawl, it's the kid got a hold of that same ring. And then in Black, I can't remember if they ever specify why, but there is an in-game explanation that makes it make sense. But we can come across that later.
Yeah, I heard about the twist ending of Black.
Yeah. Black has a really interesting twist ending, so you already know. Oh yeah, okay, so forgot to mention this earlier, but spoilers for the Twisted Metal series, by the way.
Right. These 20-year-old video games.
Hey, I'll have you know, the newest game in the series came out in 2012, so that's only 11 years old.
Ooh, that's old enough to be going like to what grade is that? 4th, 5th grade?
Something like that.
I don't know. I don't remember that long ago.
Dude, I haven't been in school in years now. And that's including college.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and just tell me a little bit about you started the summary. Let's go ahead and keep that going.
Yeah, okay, sure thing. So with Twisted Metal 1, it was kind of interesting because it was just them trying different ideas, seeing how it works, and really just focusing on the fun. And I feel like they really nailed it with that. And the way the story works in Twisted Metal 1 is it's in the futuristic world of 2005, of course.
Yes, I remember the futuristic world of 2005.
Yeah, and the Twisted Metal tournaments usually take place either on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, interestingly enough. And in the first game, it's all taking place in California, so the different locations you go to are in California. And Calypso has a rule that you fight against other vehicles at the different locations, and whoever wins gets a wish from him. And it's kind of a situation where, while they were still getting this figured out with the first Twisted Metal game, in the later ones, they kind of took the approach of be careful what you wish for, like genie type situation, and you really see that come to fruition more in Twisted Metal 2. But anyway, in Twisted Metal 1, they still had the more cartoony graphics and interesting concepts, but they also still had unique things about them. For example, to make them darker, there's a character named Yellow Jacket,
Okay.
And he's this older man named Charlie Kane, and he's been just trying to find his son, okay?
Yeah.
And what happens in his ending is he goes sees Calypso and tells Calypso that he wants to know what happened to his son and see him again. And what he finds out is that his son is Needles Kane, who is the driver of Sweet Tooth.
Ooh.
And the driver of Sweet Tooth, for those who don't know, he's this insane clown with his head on fire that drives an ice cream truck and kills people and stuff. And so not only did he find out that his son is Sweet Tooth, but he had to kill Sweet Tooth to win the tournament. So he then finds out that he killed his son.
So I know Sweet Tooth because I saw Sweet Tooth in the PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale game.
Yeah, I would argue that he definitely deserved to be in that game just because Sweet Tooth is the iconic character of the Twisted Metal series, in my opinion.
Which is weird because I would think it would be Calypso. Because it's Calypso who's kind of the catalyst for all of the games, right?
Yeah, he is the catalyst for all the games, but you can only play as him in one of the games. So I wonder if that has to do more with it.
Okay.
Yeah, Sweet Tooth is a character you see all the time, reappears. Let me double check this, but I'm almost certain he's in every Twisted Metal game. Yeah, Sweet Tooth is playable in every Twisted Metal game, so there you go. The recurring character because he's so popular.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So what is Calypso's problem? So he's like, I want to grant people wishes, except I'm going to twist them. Who benefits from that? He gets amused for a couple of minutes and then he's done.
Yep, he's just kind of a twisted, messed up individual, is the way they phrase it. And in the first Twisted Metal game, it's a bit interesting though, because we see different sides of Calypso, and it also depends on the version. Because in Twisted Metal 1, it's this interesting situation where all the endings are text scrolls in the first game. And according to David Jaffe, the creator of the game, the reason why that happened was they made live action videos for all the characters, giving them each endings, but they had to cut it because of a dispute with the people that helped make the game.
I do remember this a little bit. What game was it? It must have been Black, I think, where you were running around in that asylum, and it showed off like all these extra bonuses across the various games.
Ooh, okay, you bring up an interesting one. So, what that is that's from Twisted Metal Head On, which was a PSP release of the game.
Oh,
However, it was Twisted Metal Head On Extra Twisted Edition because, as you know, at that time, Sony loved to re-release PSP games onto the PS2 to reach a wider audience.
yeah, so people would actually buy them.
Yeah, so the Extra Twisted Edition included an extra character in Twisted Metal Head On. It gave you access to the FMV videos of the first Twisted Metal game that were never released up to that point. So that was pretty cool. And then it also had Twisted Metal Lost, which is what they were calling it on that game, which later was revealed was originally going to be called Twisted Metal Harbor City, which was going to be the sequel to Twisted Metal Black that got canceled. And what you're talking about, that asylum situation, was they had designed like the first level or so of an on foot section where you play a sweet tooth escaping the asylum, and they left different collectibles and concept art in those levels so that you could check them out and see what they were developing for it. And then what they also did that's really interesting was they had designed 4 levels for Twisted Metal Harbor City that you could then play with the Twisted Metal characters they had designed for it, which was mostly characters from Twisted Metal Black with a few additional characters that were never in that game. One called 12 Pack and the other one called Gold Tooth, which was like a gold reskin of Sweet Tooth.
Okay, I just remember when you started playing that, you were so excited.
Yep.
And I said, "Oh, look, there's a counter. There's like 99 secrets or whatever it was." And it's like, "You are going to find 98."
Yep. And that's what happened.
And that's what happened. And you had to go through the whole thing again so you could find that last one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I did it.
You did it. Now that we've kind of gone over like the basics of what the series is, describe to me like some of your favorite bits from the series. You said you started with 2.
Yeah. So I used to play the game when I was really young, and to me, it was just the hardest video game ever, but I loved playing it. And I remember specifically my dad, my 2 brothers, and I would play it a lot. And whenever my brother and I played together, I would always play as Mr. Slam or Warthog, and then he would play as Axel. And something kind of interesting that makes the Twisted Metal series so fun is that each character, like the different cars, they each have their own special ability that's unique to that character to make it more interesting. So you're not just choosing whatever vehicle you feel like playing. For example, Mr. Slam, he drove a like construction truck, and you can go and you can pick up people with the front of it, thrash them around and chuck them off, which I thought was cool. Or you have Warthog, who's this old veteran that drives a military vehicle, and he shoots 3 homing missiles out of his vehicle that are red, white, and blue. And then Axel is Axel's this guy who has his arms trapped in this giant machine with 2 giant wheels on the side, and he shoots out a shockwave that launches people up. And each of the characters has their own special moves, and that kind of relates to them. Like, for example, when you and I played Small Brawl together, you were playing as Outlaw.
Yeah.
And what Outlaw does is shoot out an electric taser that launches people into the air.
Okay. Yeah. I picked it because it was a cop car, and that was cool.
Yeah. And so not only is the gameplay a big draw, but with all the different environments, and on top of those special weapons, you can use you drive around. As you're driving around, you can pick up different weapons like napalm strikes or homing missiles or power missiles, each with their own drawbacks and strengths. And it's kind of interesting because the way I view it is it's almost like an early version of the battle royale genre we see nowadays.
Oh, okay. How so?
Just the concept of there's you and multiple people, though at this time because of the more primitive technology, they're computer players unless you're playing with friends. And you drive around, you can find different weapons and pickups to help you with the fight. You can find health boosts to restore your health. And your end goal is to be the last one standing in the arena.
I see.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting in that sense, where it was like almost a primitive version of the battle royale genre that we see nowadays. Which, speaking of which, I personally think that when like Fortnite was big and PUBG and stuff, that would have been the perfect time to do a free to play Twisted Metal game where it's a literal battle royale bunch of people online.
That's a good idea.
That would have been so cool, but battle royales definitely aren't as popular as they used to be now. So that ship failed.
The trend kind of flew its course, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that would be really cool because, like you said, the last one was released 11-ish years ago.
Yeah,
which that's a long time to go without any new installments. Like, I know a lot of people give Kingdom Hearts a lot of grief for having a lot of space between 2 and 3, but that wasn't really a space between 2 and 3, was it? They had lots of games being released between then.
exactly. Yeah, it was a situation of like there was a lot of oversaturation with the car combat market, and they would keep trying to revive or bring back the Twisted Metal series. Then after 2012, I guess they just stopped going with it. I actually don't know how well that one sold. Well, let me see if I can find some information real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. Because I know the first one sold incredibly well, which is what sparked off the series. Okay, so looking at this article from Engadget.com, where they interviewed David Jaffe, the creator, he said that the game sold fine and was not a dud.
Huh.
Okay, so decent sales, it sounds like. But probably not enough for Sony to really start investing back into the series again.
I don't see why they couldn't. I don't know if this trend has sailed, but they used to fairly recently be going back to their old PS1 properties and re-releasing them. We got Spyro re-released, we got Crash and Medieval.
Mm-hmm.
I think didn't Oddworld get a new game recently too?
Yeah, Oddworld, they did a remake of the original Abe's Odyssey. It's like the new one was called like New and Tasty or something in reference to the game. And then they also came out with a new game called Soulstorm or Soulstrom or something like that not too long ago. So they definitely tested the waters with it.
So it's like, it feels like and Twisted Metal could come back, especially since there doesn't seem to be anything like it out there right now that I can think of.
Yeah, we haven't really seen anything similar to Twisted Metal recently at all. Like maybe like a few indie games attempting something similar, but not quite at the same level.
I see.
And it was interesting because Twisted Metal 2012 is what the fandom calls it because it was a reboot just called Twisted Metal. It was really interesting because they kind of stuck to the original roots of the first Twisted Metal while also expanding on it. Because what they did was they took the live action segments from the first game that were never officially released until Twisted Metal Head On, and they made the entire story mode in Twisted Metal 2012 cinematic and lit with live action actors.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. But because they were doing that, because it was so much more big budget, there were only 3 characters you played as in the main story mode.
Oh.
And I heard online the main focus of the game was actually the online aspect they made, where they had so many cars throughout the series playable, And instead of playing as one of the leaders, which in this game, the three leaders are Sweet Tooth, Dollface, and Mr. Grimm.
Yeah.
They each have their squads, and you play as a squad member and choose the vehicle you want instead of playing as the main person. Because they felt like David Jaffe explained that he felt like it wouldn't make sense to see like 4 Sweet Tooths and 3 like doll faces running around, you know?
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really cool concept. It kind of meshed together a bunch of stuff from various games into one because like the character designs and the darker story was definitely based off of Twisted Metal Black, but they took the live action cinematic approach of the first game. And that one has some pretty dark and crazy endings in it. Like spoilers, of course, Sweet Tooth's ending was pretty crazy, where it explains how he was just an average ice cream truck driver, but then slowly went insane, donned the Sweet Tooth mask, and started killing people, starting with his family. And then the one that got away was his daughter managed to escape. And ever since she escaped, he's been wanting to track her down and kill her, right?
Oh, golly.
Yeah, I know, intense, right? That's the thing is, Sweet Tooth's always been like a serial killer clown crazy character, okay?
Ah,
Yeah.
that's a unique idea. That's a unique concept. I've never heard of that before.
Yep, never. And what ends up happening is he finally meets with Calypso. And Calypso, because Sweet Tooth says, okay, for my wish, I want to, be with her so I can kill her. So then Calypso grants his wish, right?
Okay.
And he appears in a coffin with a skeleton.
Oh.
So his daughter had died 10 years ago, and now he was in her coffin buried 6 feet underground.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's like bringing back the twist endings that we saw with like the darker ass, while making them even darker. Speaking of which, by the way, to kind of go back a bit to show you how this has kind of evolved was in Twisted Metal 2. One that I thought was kind of funny, but also like very edgy ending was for a character named Hammerhead, okay?
Okay.
And Hammerhead are like these two stereotypical 90s dudes that like are just like, yo, what up, bro? Type situation,
What
right?
up?
Yeah. So they win and they meet with Calypso, and they're all like, okay, so Calypso, we have a wish. We wish and demand the ability to fly, right?
Okay.
So then Calypso goes, okay, yeah, your wish is granted. I hope you enjoy the friendly skies. So then they both get excited, run off the building they're on, jump off, then fall to their deaths. And it goes back and it shows Calypso, and he's like, oh, how unfortunate. Well, at least these first class tickets are refundable.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, so like a bit still dark, but more funny. And with Twisted Metal 2, it was kind of interesting because they did like a comic book style for all of the endings. And
Cool.
you'll actually appreciate this is in Twisted Metal 2, they had a prequel comic made for it.
I
That's
heard
only
about the
about
prequel comic.
Yeah, it's only about 16 pages long, and it was made by DC actually.
Oh, bruh.
Yeah.
Hold on. I want to look this up. Let's see who
Ooh.
was like involved with this, if it's anyone I know.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, yeah, if it's someone you know, that'd be kind of cool to see how that ties into the comic book world.
All right, Twisted Metal 2, the comic, is a 16-page comic book that was released in 96. It centers around Calypso and his backstory. It was licensed by Sony and published by DC. Only 100 copies were ever printed, and they were given out as prizes. That's not many.
Nope. Yeah, like, it's really hard to find a copy, and if you do find a copy, it goes for crazy amounts.
Oh, wow. It says only 50 contestants even won that contest, and the remaining 50 copies were given away to fans who wrote in requesting a copy. Or were presumably destroyed. Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Due to the extreme rarity of this item, it is considered one of the most valuable pieces of Twisted Metal history and to be of holy grail status by fans. Yeah, so there was no way I was going to get to find this book somewhere.
No. Unless you were willing to spend stupid amounts of money, assuming someone was willing to sell it.
Well, it looks like the Twisted Metal wiki actually has the whole book
Oh, nice.
like scanned in, which is pretty handy. But let's look at the title page here. Jamie
Yeah,
Delano was
we
the
need.
writer. Philip Hester was the penciler. Oh, Albert de Guzman lettered. I know Albert de Guzman.
Ew. Okay. Well, why
Uh,
don't you tell us about him?
okay, so Albert de Guzman, he, I mean, he was a letterer for DC Comics in the 90s. He did a lot of the Superman stuff in the 90s.
Okay.
Rick Taylor, I don't know Rick Taylor, but now I'm going to look up these people. Let's look up Jamie Delano. Jamie Delano is a comic book writer. Ooh.
What do we got?
All right. So he wrote all but 3 of the first 40 issues of Hellblazer, which is the book that introduced and followed the life of John Constantine, if you know who he is.
No idea.
Okay, let's talk about John Constantine for a second.
All right.
So John Constantine was published from it was this publishing subset of DC called Vertigo. Okay. But his whole deal is that he is this British punk rocker who decided to try and become a wizard. And so he did. He became this dark sorcerer. He got very popular as far as Vertigo goes. Like let's see. When after a while, he became part of the main DC universe.
Okay.
There was a movie in which he was played by, I'm going to sound really dumb because I can't quite remember his name, but he's like huge. Keanu Reeves, derp. He was played by Keanu Reeves in a movie. He got his own TV drama. It wasn't on the CW, but it eventually did merge with the CW lineup of shows. So like he would make appearances in Arrow, he would make appearances in Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. He was a major founding member of the Justice League Dark, which is a mystical, magical version of the Justice League. A couple of animated movies. There's talk of Keanu Reeves coming back for a sequel. There's talks of a couple animated movies with the TV actor who played him. Like Constantine's kind of a big deal. He didn't create him, did he? It was the first writer of it. So that implies he first appeared in Swamp Thing 37 and was created by Alan Moore. So no, he didn't create John Constantine, but he wrote the first 40 issues, which is significant.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's see. He wrote for Transformers, Captain Britain. He wrote Batman Elseworlds at one point. Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
Swamp Thing. What else is here? Twisted Metal 2. He wrote Twisted Metal 2.
Who would have guessed?
Well, I mean, we did. Yeah, so that's like his big thing. It looks like as of late, it looks like his last comic book work was in 2012. So that's cool. And the artist was Philip Hester. Philip Hester. He was born in 1966. He's an American comic book artist. Let's see. He did Ultimate Marvel Team Ups, Swamp Thing, which, okay, you're doing something dark and twisted like Twisted Metal. That's actually a really solid team to have. The person who's behind Constantine and the person who's behind Swamp Thing. That's good. Aliens, Green Arrow, The Wretch, which was nominated for an Eisner Award in 97.
Okay.
So there you go. So they got a pretty good team on this particular comic book.
Yeah, I can't find specific details about it, but getting into the subject of the Twisted Metal 2 comic book, it makes me wonder if any of the DC team was involved with the comic book type endings of Twisted Metal 2.
Well, as I've been learning recently, There doesn't seem to be as much crossover between the two as I would hope there would have been.
Gotcha.
Let's see. We look up. Gosh, let's just look up the credits for Twisted Metal 2.
Yeah. Look up the credits, look for information on like anything specifically involving the cutscenes.
Ooh, hold on. Scott Campbell was the 3D graphic designer.
That name sounds so familiar.
It's probably not the same Scott Campbell I'm thinking of.
Yeah, okay. It looks like they have a few animators and art directors, like for animators in the end movies. Apparently, they hired a group called Unlikely Films to do it, according to this Game Facts.
Ooh, that
list.
sounds really familiar too.
Yeah,
Flip.
Unlikely Films. Okay, let's look that up. Bit of a deep dive.
Unlikely Films. I swear I've heard them doing stuff recently. Crap. Unlikely Films production company.
Yeah, I'm struggling
okay.
to find real information on them so far.
Unlikely Pictures. Let's see. If we look up Unlikely Films, Twisted Metal. Gosh, I know I've heard of Unlikely Films before. This is going to drive me all kinds of nuts.
Here, I'll try to look up the people involved to see if there's any connections.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently we have Anita Rosano, who, according to this LinkedIn profile, assuming it's the correct one, is a visual director for design cinema projects. Let's see. Maybe I need to look up someone else. I'm just going through the list out of curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing.
Yeah, like makes you wonder,
Yeah. Oh gosh, because I swear I've heard of that before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they do commercials or if they did a movie at one point.
Mm-hmm. Dang. Yeah, I'm not sure. Dang, this is rough. Who knows? Maybe someone knows and they can mention it in the comments.
Maybe that'd be handy. I'm not seeing. Aside from that, I'm not seeing any like standout comic book names.
Yeah,
on my end, Scott Campbell might be a guy, but
according to this information we have on this information we have on the director and producer of the end movie animations, that person's name's Jeff Goldsmith. So maybe if we look into that, that might provide us with more information.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm on IMDb, so let's look up Jeff Goldsmith. Jeff Goldsmith, Twisted Metal.
Looks like he was also involved with Twisted Metal Black.
Well, that makes sense. Wasn't the initial original team all about that?
Yeah, the original team was involved with Twisted Metal Black. 3 and 4 were done by an in-house company that Sony owned called 989 Studios, actually, which is why they feel so different from the rest of the series.
Okay, so real quick, Jeff Goldsmith is known for Pitfall 3D, Beyond the Jungle, Twisted Metal, and Warhawk.
Yeah.
He was on a TV series called Front Row Flynn. That's all he did.
Yep, I'm not finding much other details besides that, unfortunately.
All right, well, let's talk about what happened with 3. You kind of mentioned that it fell off the deep end.
Yeah, so what happened with 3 was there was some kind of dispute that I don't remember between a Single Track, which made the first 2 games, and Sony. So they hired 989 Studios to make it. However, if I remember this correctly, I've heard online that they were only given 9 to 10 months to create the entire game.
That's not very long.
Yeah, from the ground up for Twisted Metal 3. So because of that, the physics are pretty wonky. The controls are kind of iffy. The characters are kind of strange picks in a lot of ways, and they feel like shells of their former selves. And the endings are absolute garbage.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh shoot.
it's bad. To kind of put something in perspective, the ending in Twisted Metal 3, it's something along the lines of like for Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth shows up, and then Calypso just goes, "Oh, so Sweet Tooth, you want to eat all the candy you've ever wanted? Your wish is granted." And then Sweet Tooth screams and goes, "Ah!" Right?
Okay.
And keep in mind, this is all in crappy PS1 CGI.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So then Calypso's like, "Too bad you still got to deal with the cavities." And they just show Sweet Tooth tied down to a dentist chair while they're taking care of his teeth. And that's the ending.
That feels rushed.
Yeah. I heard the game was very, very rushed, for sure. And yeah, there were just some issues with it, like your car could get knocked over and then you're just stuck on your back for like what felt like forever until it would automatically flip you back over. And yeah, it not the best level design, but a couple of really solid levels in there that I really enjoyed. They had a level based on the North Pole that was a lot of fun.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a ton. Yeah, just like a bunch of different stuff. Not the best in the series. Endings weren't that great. Something interesting about it though is with Twisted Metal 3, they had a lot of licensed music in it.
Oh,
Mostly Rob Zombie, if you know him.
yeah, I know Rob Zombie.
Okay, so get this. Rob Zombie's music appears in Twisted Metal 3, right?
Okay.
Twisted Metal 4 comes out, and Rob Zombie's a playable character.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah, and his ending is just a music video.
Okay.
Yeah, Twisted Metal 4 felt like okay, a lot of people prefer Twisted Metal 4 over 3. I actually don't prefer 4 over 3 because I feel like my main issue with this is it feels like the characters have way too much health. So maybe I need to play with like an extra damage cheat code or something because it just feels like it takes forever to take out opponents. But
Yeah.
Twisted Metal 4 had some cool concepts in it. They definitely improved on a lot of the system issues in 3 by making it so your car flips back over faster. The controls aren't as awkward, and they had some cool stuff in there. Story wise, was pretty unique as well. So first 3 games all kind of follow the same concept. Calypso's running the Twisted Metal tournament, and then people show up, get their wish, and it either backfires or goes well for them, depending on what the wish is. Now with Twisted Metal 4, they kind of like oh gosh, what's the term where you like change what happened in the past to make it make sense with the current story? What's the term for that?
That's not a reboot.
No, not a reboot.
Like reframing?
No, that's not quite what I'm looking for.
Re.
Might not have the word re in it. Dang it, why can't I think of this word?
There's some mouth noises for you guys.
Retcon.
Retcon.
Okay, so Twisted Metal 4 retcons the series by having it where Sweet Tooth, when he was a little boy, saw Calypso show up with like his, different with his show about car combat, and he was like, "I want to get in on this," and he joins in. It's like a circus thing, and then he keeps playing and being a part of the series, right? And he keeps winning, but then one year he's tired of just doing it over and over again and actually shows up, uses his clown minions to overthrow Calypso and steal his ring. So now Sweet Tooth is in charge of it.
And then you get to play as Calypso.
Yeah, it's the only game where you get to play as Calypso because he's trying to win the tournament so he can get back the ring.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess again, spoils for games that are older than you.
Yes.
So maybe not. I don't know.
Depends on your
So
age.
depends on your age. There's a lot of factors here. Doesn't the ending of Calypso, like Calypso's ending, is that like he and Sweet Tooth both get sucked into the ring at the end, right?
Yeah.
And then the ring falls away, and it's picked up by random child number 6.
Here's the thing that I find interesting. So this is never explicitly stated, but I noticed that the child that picks it up looks a lot like Billy Calypso in Small Brawl.
Yeah, see that would make sense. That would feel right.
Yeah, especially since that was the next game to be released on the PS1.
So I wonder if that was intentional.
Yeah, I wonder too. Obviously, we don't know for certain, but it's a possibility. Another thing that's interesting about Twisted Metal 4 was they actually had a one off level where you're playing as your standard cars in this giant bedroom. And the boss of that level is called RC Car, where you're fighting a literal RC car. So I wonder if that was also inspiration for Twisted Metal Small Brawl.
Okay. Sounds like it probably was.
Yeah.
Like they were probably developing Small Brawl and it's like, oh hey, let's put in the prototype for Small Brawl in here, see how it feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then after that, of course, we got Twisted Metal Black, which I really enjoy that game. It's easily the hardest game in the series, but it's a lot of fun. And the endings they went with in that one are really dark and like a lot more out there in a way. Like, for example, Mr. Grimm this whole time has been like a Grim Reaper type character, right? And all of his wishes have been involved with wanting to have different souls to feast on.
Okay.
And what they did in Twisted Metal Black is he's a Vietnam vet, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was he was captured in Vietnam and was starved. And then it was just him and his best friend left. And he was, in essence, forced to cannibalize his best friend. And he wears the skull of his best friend over his face. And what ends up happening is the wish he wants is he feels like he's been turned into this monster now because he was forced to cannibalize his friend. And so when he wins the tournament and meets with Calypso, he wishes to have the person that trapped him there before him, and he eats the person that trapped him and forced him in that situation in Vietnam.
Find your happy place. Find your happy place. Find your happy place.
Yeah.
Like
Twisted Metal Black is really dark.
holy flip.
Yeah, it was so dark that I've heard the European version banned all the cutscenes.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how accurate that is, but I've heard that.
Huh.
The craziest part is that's not even the darkest ending.
Oh.
Like, there are way darker ones that are crazy. Like, there's this one that's crazy where it involves a preacher that's the driver of this vehicle called Brimstone, okay?
Okay.
And what happened was he was trying to exorcise a baby that had a demon in it, right?
Okay.
Then the demon took control of him and had him kill everybody in the church building, so he was sent to the asylum. That's the other thing about Twisted Metal Black is all the characters are in an asylum. And then Calypso busted them all out to let them enter his tournament, play for a wish, right?
Yeah.
And what happens with Brimstone is he's going through because he wants to, right the situation and everything. And when he gets through to learn like the truth and everything, what he finds out was the baby was not possessed, but he was actually performing a baptism and drowned the baby to death and then went on a killing spree.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Twisted Metal Black is super dark.
Yeah, that is.
Mm-hmm. Then they have other ones. They have other ones that are like with Outlaw. He wanted to stop this one man who was killing people because he was part of the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
And travels back in time to do that. And while he does stop some of the bad guys in that situation, he himself gets shot and dies.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. There's there's all kinds of crazy endings in this in this game. But
so go ahead.
what were you saying?
Well, I was going to move on to a new topic.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was gonna say the thing like you hinted at earlier, the thing that's really interesting is if you beat the game with every character, then you play as Minion, you can decode a message between each of his screens to discover that the game takes place inside of Sweet Tooth's head and none of it's actually happening.
Well, there
So
you go.
it's
That
just,
makes me feel like maybe 20% better.
yeah, so nothing that happens in Twist Melt Black is actually happening in reality. It's just Sweet Tooth's demented head and the way he sees the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what that one's about. And then Head On was pretty cool because Head On takes place canonically after Twist Melt 1 and 2, kind of ignoring 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that one goes back to the more like style that we see of the older Twisted Metal games of like being a bit more cartoony and over the top. Back to the comic book cutscenes as well, which is really cool. And that one has some pretty interesting fun endings in it. One that always made me laugh was this character named Shadow. Okay.
All right.
And for his ending, he meets with Calypso and he says, Calypso, I've been awake and had like the souls of the dead like haunting me forever. I just want to sleep. And it ends with Calypso reading Shadow a bedtime story so he can fall asleep.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
I figured you would appreciate a more lighthearted, upbeat ending.
Yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Also with upbeat endings, Small Brawl had a lot of endings that were pretty hilarious. Like if you remember the one, do you remember Outlaw's ending when you and I played through together?
I don't. No.
Okay. So Calypso in that game, who's Billy Calypso, in essence bullies all the kids and stuff. So Outlaw, what he does is he outfits his little RC car with a giant missile, shoots it at Calypso, who falls in a sewage area to avoid it, and then it hits a cop car.
Oh.
And that ends with Outlaw getting arrested.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So hey, I have an idea.
What's up?
Now the cars in Twisted Metal are all extremely zany.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious if you were to design a car for yourself to be driving, what would you do?
Okay. Ooh, that's a challenging one. Okay, so while I do like video games and stuff, I feel like that wouldn't lead to a very fun car design, really. So I think I would like to take another aspect of myself is I play saxophone, okay?
Oh, do you?
Yeah, and I love ska music, as you and I both know.
Ska. Oh. Did you know that the creators of Twisted Metal went on to make a spiritual sequel to it called Rogue Trip?
Yep,
And it had ska music in it.
it sure did. That game's really fun, actually. Ooh, that's something else we could talk about as Twist Metal spin-offs at some point. But anyway, to answer your
we'll talk
question,
about it.
yeah. So what I kind of would like to do is I think my character would be like a, saxophone and brassy ska inspired vehicle, maybe like designed after a trumpet or something would be kind of cool. And for its special move, it would have speakers pop up at the top, blast out a quick, loud notes, and then knock people away.
Okay. That's kind of cool. I can dig it. I can see it.
What about you? What would be your Twisted Metal vehicle and special ability?
I would want a hovercraft of some sort.
Ooh. Okay.
Like something kit bashed. Think the DeLorean and Back to the Future 2, right?
Okay.
So it's just some normal ugly looking car, but it has a bunch of stuff glued to it and it floats.
Okay.
And the special ability would be to what would be fun? I don't know if this could be a thing that would work Does it have to be an offensive ability?
You'd want something that can deal damage, I think, but maybe like it can be used defensively. Like for example, um, like in the later games, you have Hammerhead, where well, okay, Hammerhead appears throughout the series, but he has a ramming ability that like you crash into people and it bounces them away and stuff. You have a Club Kid where his ability is he makes like this point on the map that people get sucked into and get stuck there for a while. So I'm sure you
Oh,
could figure out something that's like a bit more defensive with like some kind of offensive aspect to it.
okay. Here's what I would do.
Okay.
So you flip the switch and the car goes into overdrive. Okay.
Okay.
And just zooms at a ridiculously fast pace for a short little distance and leaves behind a stage hazard.
Ooh.
It leaves behind like a flaming stage hazard that stays there for X amount of time.
Yeah.
And if there's someone in front of you when you pop into hyperdrive, you just slice through them.
Okay. That'd be pretty cool.
That's very spaceship. That's very cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right.
All right, sweet.
Let's talk about spin-offs and ripoffs.
Yeah, so while Twisted Metal 3 and 4 were going on, Single Track Studios made Rogue Trip, which had a lot of unique and kind of gross looking characters in it. It was a very interesting one, and obviously heavily inspired by Twisted Metal, but with its own spin. One thing you have to do in this game is you have to pick up different tourists who are checking out the different sites around the world. You have to position yourself to let them take a picture, and you get money as you do this.
Okay, so it's Crazy Taxi, but with machine guns.
Yeah, with car combat.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can go to different points to restore your health with the money you collect, or you can go to stations to power up your weapons and make them stronger, or you can get extra lives if you collect enough money, just like stuff like that.
Okay, very cool. And I know there's a Star Wars ripoff.
Yeah, that's Star Wars Demolition for the Dreamcast and PS1, I believe.
And the only character in it that's worth talking about is Boba Fett.
You can unlock Darth Maul.
Okay.
Yeah,
Darth Maul's worth talking about.
One of the issues I had with it, I actually owned the game.
Is it fun?
Yeah, it's pretty fun actually. It was more fun than I was expecting it to be.
Oh, nice.
But I think one of the biggest issues with it is it just has these characters that most people have no idea, like, just who the heck are these people? With very few exceptions, like Boba Fett or unlocking Darth Maul.
Yeah, that's okay. So some Star Wars games can get away with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like a casual arcadey kind of game, you would want to have the big names involved. And it's weird that, like, for a vehicle combat thing, you don't have just a bunch of like well-known Star Wars characters or figures or stuff. It's because like this can't be canon. Darth Maul's in it. So you might as well throw canon out the window.
Yeah, the story for it is that the Galactic Empire had banned pod racing. So Jabba the Hutt decided to make vehicular combat contests.
Yeah. Okay. So story wise, this is a blatant ripoff. That's the same thing.
Yep.
and yeah, like there doesn't need to be any canon to an arcade game. It's like trying to put canon to Bombad Racing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we don't want canon to Bombad Racing. We just want to play as the characters we like. Why would you have a Star Wars game like this, but you wouldn't have, the Millennium Falcon as something to play as, or a TIE fighter?
Yeah.
Or like you have Boba Fett flying around with his jetpack. That's fun. And you have an AT-AT, cool. But the AT-AT isn't piloted by anyone we care about.
Yeah.
And
like,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's just that if you're going to make an arcadey Star Wars game, I can understand that you might be concerned about the canon of it, but it's an arcadey game. We don't need canon. Just skip that.
Yeah. Another thing that was interesting about it though is on top of special moves, characters had different levels of special moves where you could use like four different versions depending on how long you charged it and would have different properties and stuff. So that was kind of a unique aspect they brought to the game.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually the people who made Star Wars Demolition were the people who made Vigilante 8, which is another Twisted Metal clone.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so Vigilante 8 had a game, and then they had Vigilante 8 Second Offense as well. And it's a similar general concept of just card combat. People have their own special moves. And an aspect they included to make it more interesting was you could score more points by whammying enemies, which means hitting them with two different weapons at the same time.
Ah,
And it would like deal bonus damage and give you extra points and stuff.
okay.
Yeah, we've seen all kinds of games. Like there was one called Critical Depth that one took place underwater as a card combat game. You had Dead in the Water, which was like pirate ships and various ships and stuff.
Ooh,
Like, yeah,
pirates.
there were so many card combat clones going on at that time. It was insane.
Kind of weird that there are a grand total of not many now.
Yeah, exactly. The series has definitely died out, I think, partially due to oversaturation, unfortunately.
Huh. Yeah, because you said early oversaturation earlier, and it's like, what? You mean the one game series and Star Wars?
So, no, there's a lot.
Apparently. I had no idea.
Like, it doesn't even end there. Like, you had Cell Damage that released on the GameCube. That was a very cartoony rendition of the vehicular combat genre. You had so this one is the most insane to me. Yeah, WWE Crush Hour.
A wrestling game?
So it was a WWE game where the different wrestlers were driving vehicles and doing car combat.
But they're already wrestlers.
Yeah, but they just drove cars instead.
At that point, you could do that with anyone. Why not have a golf game where Tiger Woods is driving a combat car
I'd play it.
Okay. I made that joke, but now I'm like, okay, if you applied that same logic to golf carts, that'd be awesome. That would be so fun.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that eventually the car combat like genre just kind of died out more and more, and you see less and less of it. And yeah, to the point where the last Twist Metal game was 2012. And sure, they had re-releases, like they brought Twist Metal Black to the PS4, and I think it had the online support that the original had, which was cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can still play Twist Metal Black online through that. If not that, then through fan means, as well as Twist Metal 2 has online functionality that fans developed, which is cool.
so do you think part of that though is that every kart racer, like everywhere ever, already has a combat arena mode?
Yeah, the combat arena mode is more appealing, but the issue with it is that it's never the main focus of the game. And on top of that, people don't really play it often. Like, for example, when you go and play Mario Kart 8 with friends, how often do you play battle mode?
I don't have friends.
Oh,
No,
you
every time I play Mario Kart 8, I just play races.
exactly. That's the thing is that a lot of times racing games, they, focus on the racing aspect. But what I think makes it more challenging is most racing games in that style do have combat elements to them, but just involving the race.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I felt like, the Battle Royale scene would have been the perfect time to reboot Twisted Metal. As just like, imagine Twisted Metal on a giant map where you're playing against like, I don't know, 49 other people or something. And you can go pick up different weapons, use whatever special move for the character you have. Like, that would be sick.
So here's the next question, and I'm going to cut this next bit out, but
Okay.
I'm thinking that I want these to be shorter than the 2 hours we did last time.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because like the 2 hours was fine, but it's like I'm thinking if we could keep it at around hour and a half ish, that would be more handy.
Okay, I can wrap it up if you want.
Okay. Well, I had one more question.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Do you think that there is room for Twisted Metal to come back right now?
I do think there's room, and there's a few reasons why. So,
Okay.
one, if Sony wanted to test the water safely, do an HD remaster of 1, 2, and Black.
Okay.
And the reason why I suggest those are the ones that people have the fondest memories of. If I could have it my way, I would choose 1, 2, Head On, and Black. And maybe Small Brawl in there, but that might be too many games at that point. So I'd say do the big three that people care about the most, which is those three.
Okay.
And if they were to do that, they could then see if there's interest in it. An online-based free-to-play Twisted Metal model, I think, could work well in today's world. And this is what's interesting, is there's still a market for Twisted Metal because the Twisted Metal online like YouTube scene has been blowing up recently. Like if you go, like people still post Twisted Metal content to this day, talking about the series, playing the games and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Twisted Metal actually is coming back, but in a way we don't traditionally see. A few days ago, as of the recording of this video, they released a teaser trailer for the TV series that's coming out in July.
Oh, that's right. You briefly mentioned that.
Yeah, so Twisted Metal is actually getting a TV series, and fans are really hoping that if this TV series gets enough attention that we could see a revival of the games as well.
Kind of weird that they would release a TV series and not do anything with the game.
Yeah, but I think it makes a bit of sense when you consider that, like, Twisted Metal 1 had live action cutscenes, 2 and Head On were very cinematic with their comic books, and then 2012, they put a ton of money into the live action cutscenes in that one. So I think the creators have always had an interest in like a more cinematic approach. But yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes and how that plays out.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all kinds of exciting. I hope that does come back because like the very brief interaction I've had with Twisted Metal, I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah, Twisted Metal is a ton of fun. I play the games regularly to this day. Just sometimes I feel like playing. And that's the thing that's so brilliant about it is Twisted Metal has a pick up and play arcadey nature, like you mentioned earlier. You can easily just one day be like, I feel like playing Twisted Metal. Turn it on, play through a campaign with one of the characters, see the ending, and be done playing it for a while until you need your fix again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how long does it take to get through the arcade mode? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
So depending on how good you are at the game, it can take like 30-ish minutes to an hour, depending on the game. But like if you were little kid me, it would take me days to get through an arcade mode with a character.
That's because you're no good at games.
Exactly. So I'd have to go and like write down all the codes for the different levels and stuff to go back and play them for the older games that didn't have memory card support yet. And yeah, just do all that. But yeah, they can easily take between 30 minutes to an hour.
That's
and
not
some
bad.
may take longer. Like Twisted Metal Black will probably take you longer for sure because it's the hardest game.
Well, I mean, half an hour to an hour, that's fantastic. That's a good sit down and play for a bit.
Exactly. Yeah. When I was really getting back into it again, like during college and stuff, I would just, when I had time, I'd just sit down and play through a campaign whenever I felt like it.
Handy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, hey, that's all kinds of cool stuff. So how about you go ahead and how about you go ahead and take us out then?
Yeah, sure thing. So we appreciate you guys listening to me just kind of hopping all over the place with the Twisted Metal series. There's a lot to cover. Big fan, so mine hops all over the place and stuff. I'm excited for the TV series to see how that turns out. And next time on the podcast, we'll have our new introduction format where we just talk a bit about things we've been doing recently with like video games and comic books. And next time we'll tackle a subject from Taylor's childhood that he still keeps up to this day. And we can look into that with comic books, and maybe I could provide a bit of insight or ask questions. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe that'll be fun. But
Yeah.
hey, we're super excited that you guys sat in and listened to us talk about stuff, and hope to see you on the next one.
Yep, it's fun as always. Like, I always have a blast recording these.
All 2 times we've done it.
Hey, it's been fun each time, so there we go.
Now, as I'm about to say, so Sir Garrett, do you have any wise words of wisdom for us to send us home with?
Well, I gave wise words of wisdom last time, supposedly, so I think it's actually your turn.
Oh, no. You're the one with the wise words of wisdom.
Why am I the one with the wise words of wisdom?
Because I asked first.
Dang it. Okay, but next time it's your turn.
Yeah, if I don't beat you to it.
Ooh, true. Okay, wise words of wisdom. I'd say, don't be afraid to enjoy what you like, I enjoy twisted metal. It may not be the most popular thing nowadays, and we may not have seen a game in a while, but there's absolutely nothing wrong enjoying what you like, even if that means playing older games on consoles or watching older TV shows or reading older books, Enjoy what you like, have fun with it, because that'll bring you more joy to your life if you're enjoying the things you enjoy, rather than trying to force yourself to follow the new trends.
And that's why I asked for your words of wisdom.
Gotcha.
All right, hey, we'll see you around, guys. Bye.
All right, bye.